Okay. What is up, world? John Shoot here for another Puff Creative podcast. Today, I have the honor and privilege of being here with Takesha Harvey. Takesha, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks, John.
It's so good to see you.
You
We've
too.
actually never met, but I feel like I know you so well.
I mean, this is the world we live in today. We always
It
meet through the
is.
computer. So,
Yeah, Takesha, you are the co-founder and brand director of CannaCurious Magazine. Give us like just a higher level overview of CannaCurious because you got a lot of really cool stuff going on.
yeah, CannaCurious Magazine is a cannabis lifestyle magazine from a woman's perspective. We basically are targeting the CannaCurious woman, someone who is interested in learning about cannabis and CBD and how it can impact her life. But we do it in a really beautiful and approachable way so that everyone feels welcome.
It's awesome that you're doing that, and it's so important. I think that you've decided to launch this magazine, especially at this point in the world, this the state of mind everyone's in, and also at this point in the cannabis industry and how it's accelerating just at a pace that I don't think any of us thought could happen.
Right?
um, we'll circle back to that. A huge part of my podcast is just diving into the story of the folks behind the scenes. I feel like sometimes like that gets missed when people are just running companies and just busy in the day-to-day grind. And just a quick background how we met. It was we met on a virtual General Assembly conference, right? That was
Right.
like
The
right when
future of
COVID,
flower.
I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
the future. It was like right when COVID started. I was like in my bedroom with the dog behind me, I think the
Yeah.
whole time.
Everyone was like commenting about the dog and
Yeah, that
how
was like
cute
the
you
hot topic. Like no one listened to what I said. They're just like, that dog, she moved.
she moved. She's on the
um
house.
and I think like I remember everyone on that like everyone was just super chill and we all kind of just like kept in touch and you and I have
Yeah.
been in touch, which has been great. And you just hand crocheted a blanket for my newborn baby, which I am extremely grateful for.
You are very
Um, I'm trying to
welcome.
convince Takesha to open her own crochet business, but it's besides the
As
point.
if my friends don't think I'm 90 years old already. They're like, you're crocheting blankets. And I watch
Um,
CBS. I watch Murder She Wrote.
same, same. It's not a bad thing. Um, so, are you? I know you're in Florida currently. Are you from Florida?
I am.
You
Yeah, I'm
are
actually from
South
Fort
Florida,
Lauderdale.
or
Yeah, it's crazy because I just moved back here 3 years ago, and I hadn't lived here in like since high school. So it was kind of like it still is kind of new for me to be back down here because it's so different. Because when I after graduating college, I basically was up and down the East Coast and a little bit in the
where did you
Midwest.
go to school?
I went to Florida A&M University, which it's
Oh,
funny
nice.
because we always used to joke that the A&M stand for Florida Alcoholic and Marijuana University.
That's
you know, I
awesome.
don't, I don't know if any other A&M schools say that, but
Dude, that's all. I think you should start like a crochet and t-shirt company now too for like the college.
yeah. So yeah, I went to school at Florida A&M, which is in Tallahassee. It's like 7 hours north of Fort Lauderdale. And yeah, from there I started my career in fashion. I worked at Macy's in their buying office. And it's funny going to a buying office. You're thinking, oh, this is going to be exciting. And I worked in a buying office for like, it's funny, infants and layette. So it was
Oh, no.
little onesies, basically. Nothing,
Dude, the
no
onesie
fashion
industry,
shows.
the onesie industry is a serious thing, though. I'm not gonna.
I
There's a
mean,
lot going on with
I
onesies.
didn't know like there's name brands. It was like DKNY, Calvin
Yeah,
Klein.
there's like Balenciaga onesies and like Gucci shoes for babies. It's like they wear them for a month, and
Yeah, but at least your baby's styling, I guess, for that month.
true.
Yeah, so I did that, and then I got tired of working in a department store, and like once you're in New York, it's like I'm sure it's probably the same in Colorado. You're like all the industries are there, so all the
Yeah,
buying offices are there in New York, and so there's like headhunters calling you all the time. And so I finally answered one and got an interview.
I have a question. Is this were you already consuming cannabis when this all happened? So when did that
No,
first start for you?
I mean, okay, so going back to Florida Alcoholic and Marijuana University, Florida A&M. Let me not disrespect the name, but
I love
I
it.
was definitely more on the alcohol side than the marijuana side. But I was always around it, but I never consumed it in college. So I
Would
was
you say
probably
that's because like of growing up in Florida and it being illegal and like was that part of the influence or just like
actually it's a simpler than that. I didn't know
oh
how to smoke, and this
okay
and this is like probably so I didn't know. I was just so every time I tried, I'm coughing. It's
yeah
so no one, everyone, I guess, assumes that you know how to smoke. And I'm like, I don't know how to, properly inhale or not inhale, rather, And so
yeah
I was like, this sucks. It's like, I'm just coughing. So I'd never liked to inhale anything. So I just
interesting.
kind of stuck on the alcohol side. So it wasn't until many, many years later that
So
I,
after New York, after Macy's,
yeah,
interesting.
it was actually 2016. I went to
Whoa,
see it. Yeah, no, long. I told you I was on the alcohol side. I like mixed drinks. I like wine.
what's like your what's your go-to drinks? Like what's a mixed drink that
Oh,
you like?
old fashioned.
Oh, me
Yeah.
too.
Yes, that's my
Classic.
go-to.
Can't be the classic.
Yeah. But it was going in Seattle actually. In 2016, I went there for the first time with a friend, and I was like, "Oh man, cannabis is legal here. Let's go. I want to try it out." And I had the same rookie mistake. I got an edible. My friend got some pre rolls, and
I
she
already know
smoked
where this is
before.
going.
You already know. You already know. Yeah, it was, I had like a chocolate bar, and I think, they sell them in 100 milligrams, right? So I
Yeah,
eat
it's
some, I had
scary.
no idea of dosing. So I eat some, of course, I feel nothing. So I eat some more, of course.
And they're usually
And
pretty good. So you're like, oh, whatever.
yeah, this tastes great. And we went out to eat. And then afterwards we went to like get dessert and drinks at another place and met up with a friend that I knew from grad school who lived out there. And all of a sudden it hit me. And I did not know what to expect because I'd never done an edible before. And all of a sudden I was like hyper paranoid. I'm like, I swear I was like Smokey and Friday. And I was like, can they tell? Can they tell? Can they tell I'm high? Like I was like, can they hear my thoughts? Am I talking out loud? Like it was the most, but the least, because I was like so contained. I was just sitting there, like I guess kind of like stuck. And I'm like, do they know? Do they know? And they're talking and I'm not talking at all. And I'm just like sitting there. And then they're like, you okay? And I'm like,
Like trying to play it off.
yeah, trying to play it off. And then finally we leave and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm super high. And my friend just falls out laughing and she's
Because
just like,
they consume too, but already knew what to expect.
yeah, exactly. And so I just didn't know what to expect. And so I was just like trying to almost like, when you drink too much, I kept drinking water as if that was going to help anything. like,
That's like, I mean, that's always like the first resort when you're like having like a
like,
panic attack or something. Just drink a ton of water.
just like water. So I ended up going back to the hotel and like passing out and having like the best night's sleep ever. But yeah, it was inconsequential, but it was just really funny that I can't believe. And since then, I have never consumed that much in one sitting because I know better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
So then did it kind of that didn't turn you off then? That kind of you explored it more from there and started
well,
realizing.
yeah, at the time I think I was living in Ohio. So I was in such a place where it was not, again, not smoking it. There wasn't really a place to get edibles. And I didn't know anyone who was doing or trying, at home bake edibles or anything like that. So it wasn't until 2018 when I actually started working in the cannabis industry that I started my exploration and really started consuming a lot of more different products.
Interesting. Okay. So all right, so we're gonna circle back again. So we're in New York. We're not smoking weed.
No.
We're buying onesies and doing purchasing for Macy's. And then did you stay on that path, which kind of and developed your professional career in that space, which led to your consulting in the cannabis space,
Yeah, so
basically?
I basically my time in New York was all in fashion. So after I
Sorry
left
if you
for
hear a
Macy's,
baby crying too in the background.
oh,
It's just yeah.
please go watch your baby. No,
My
it's
wife's
like,
got it. She knows. I'm like, it's with the lady who crocheted the blanket. Like we got this podcast.
um, Yeah, so in New York, I basically stayed in fashion. So I went to Coach after Macy's, and then from there I went to Ralph Lauren. And then at that point, was basically always working in the buying offices, and I kind of got tired of that and found it hard to exit. And so I created my own exit. I went back to graduate school for 2 years and just didn't work for 2 years. I went full
Nice.
time.
You're
Yeah,
like, yeah, I don't feel like breaking up with these guys. I'm just gonna go back to school.
I mean, it's a
That's
great excuse.
awesome.
Like, oh, sorry, I just, people, it's very accepting too. People are like,
Yeah,
they're
for sure.
excited and happy for you. So then it was in graduate school that I kind of was able to switch careers, and I started working in consumer packaged goods and like brand management and innovation. Um, and those skills were super transferable to the cannabis industry or this burgeoning cannabis industry and CBD industry, as a matter of fact, because I see them as like the next consumer packaged goods industry. It's understanding who your target customer is, what is your branding, what is your brand message, how are you promoting, how often are you, giving people incentives to purchase. All the things that happened in the traditional, buying. I was working on Chef Boyardee and things like, Hunt's tomatoes. Those things are still relevant in the cannabis space. So I saw that as an opportunity. And so when I left corporate America and went on my sabbatical for a year to find myself,
It's completely necessary.
yeah, I feel like everyone should do it. Maybe like every 10 years, even, don't, because I coined the phrase. I haven't coined the phrase, but I identify with it as a multi-passionate creative. Like I seem to like have a 7-year itch. So it's like I worked 7 years in fashion, then I was like, okay, what next? And then I worked 8 years in the consumer packaged goods industry. And I'm like, okay, what next? So I think that it's natural for me at least to always want to explore different avenues. And I think cannabis for me was like, oh my gosh, it's so appealing because it's so new, and there's so much opportunity in it. And it also like coming in, and almost like kind of being able to shape the industry is super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super important. Interesting. So then you get into the cannabis space, and is that when you became a bit more like you educated yourself on like the possibilities of like consuming products like a certain way and like controlling your high type of concept?
Yeah, exactly. Because also, like, so the first time I was actually in Denver, we were working with a dispensary chain there. So I was back and forth there every 2 weeks for about 3 months.
Oh,
And so I got to experiment and try a lot of different things. And the first thing that I tried was this product by 1906 High called Midnight for Sleep.
yeah,
And I have
that's a
trouble
great
sleeping.
product.
Like people always joke, but I don't sleep through the night. I don't think I have in like, I don't know, 15 years. Like I wake up every 2 to 3 hours. And so
Oh, you
I
should come babysit.
only I don't do diapers. Sorry. I don't do
Oh,
diapers.
okay, all right,
I mean, number one,
understandable.
and number two. Then I have to wake you up.
It's fine.
But yeah, so when I tried it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I was able to like sleep for 6 hours and wake up with no like grogginess or no hangover or anything like
Yeah,
that, like, which you sometimes will get if you take a sleep aid or
yeah, or get
Nyquil
too drunk or
or NyQuil. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, and so I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then in experimenting with different products, I was like I have a herniated disc in my back, and I have when that flares up and I can't walk, like the back pain, the ibuprofen regimen that I'm on is, I can't take it for too many days because it upsets my stomach. And so I
yeah,
found I have like a cannabis vape pen, and I'll take a couple puffs, and I was like, the pain subsides so much quicker. Or I'll use a CBD topical on my back, and then my healing time is like cut in half. And
yep,
so that's where I started to basically start to like evangelize, and as I learned more too, like more and more about different cannabis products, and especially trying to reduce and change that notion that this is a drug, because that's what I
yeah.
thought growing up. Like, oh, that's bad. Don't do that. That's the gateway drug. Next thing you do, you're gonna be doing heroin. Like, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah, which
not
is
true.
crazy because it's like we have like a whole dedicated system to cannabinoids in our
Right.
body. That it's like you grow up, in the DARE program or whatever it is. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh wait, so this is actually a natural plant that our
Right.
body is like used to. Um,
Right. Versus all the synthetic, pharmaceutical products
yeah,
that come out that have horrendous side effects. And
Addiction.
And right, addiction. So so that started to change my mind too. And it was funny because I started talking to my parents about it, and they were even open to it because as they're over 70 and they have chronic pain and illnesses.
They're
And
on how much medication and
exactly. And they're like, I don't want to be on all these medications. And so I started them on some CBD products and they really liked them. And so it's like, that's when I was like, okay, if I could change my 70 something year old church going parents' minds, like
it's true.
You could change anyone's mind, right?
Interesting. And so is that so that those experiences have kind of led you to CannaCurious?
Absolutely, because so me and my co-founders, we worked at the same co-working space, and we always wanted to work together because we, really just enjoyed each other's company, and who wouldn't want to work with your friends? And we had
and with someone else who's like the boss, you're like, we could probably do this on our own. Like, our own bosses.
Yeah, we had the skill set. Like, one of the co-founders is a graphic designer, the other one's like has editorial experience as a writer. So it was something that we could actually just put together and produce on our own without, a ton of additional help, at least to start up. And that was really, and what we really talked about was targeting women, because women have such we're just always so scared of being judged, especially by other women. And
it's horrible. I mean, I'm noticing it now with like my wife and like having a baby, where it's like, we used to post about products and like shout out, and she's like, are people gonna judge me? And I'm like, that sucks that you even feel that way. Like, I'm out here like just another white dude posting about my cannabis and smoking, and like don't even think twice about it. And like, I'm like, man, you shouldn't have to feel that way. It's like not fair.
Yeah, and there's things that can help you. One of my co-founders has 2 kids, and she was like, I have a CBD vape pen. It helps me stay calm, and it's better than me drinking wine. But she's like, I don't really want to tell people about it because they think it's a drug, and they think they're going to be like, oh, you're doing drugs. But
in reality, it's way better than a glass of wine.
Absolutely. So that was kind of like the impetus that we're like, okay, how can we educate women and change their minds and have them basically like just normalize and neutralize the conversation about cannabis and women using it for all of our different, ailments, and helping us to just basically live better lives. And that's what we aim to do with CannaCurious. We're like, okay, let's package it and put it in a beautiful and approachable way, and include personal stories from all types of women, so people can identify with their story or identify with the person telling the story and see themselves reflected in our magazine.
Do you feel that like just because like I mean, just women in general, like the things like just living in the world we live in, the climate we live in, especially during this past year, do you feel that it just helps with like the general mental health and day-to-day kind of BS that women have to deal with?
We put an incredible amount of pressure on ourselves. And I mean, society does as well, and then I think take that on and say, okay, I need to be.
It's a lot. I really, man, I couldn't even imagine. Like, that's why it's so important, I think, that you're doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I think also, once women become mothers, that there's a whole additional layer to that in terms of expectations. Again, and there's societal expectations, personal, familial expectations,
family, friends. It's like it's
everybody,
crazy.
Right? And and sometimes I think we don't challenge those expectations. Like, those have been around for generations, and the world has changed, and the world is changing, and how we operated in the past is not necessarily the way we need to operate in the future. And part of what we're doing as a bigger goal is almost like women's liberation. Like, just being okay with who you are. Because when you're trying to live up to other people's expectations, judgments, et cetera, that creates a tremendous amount of anxiety and stress, and even depression. And cannabis and CBD products can help alleviate some of the symptoms of those ailments. And it's okay. Like, mommy juice is normalized. Walking the kids and having your glass of wine.
That's what's like blows my mind, that's like accepted, but like a CBD gummy before you do it, when you wake up, is like could potentially be frowned upon. This is a perfect transition. So we've had the opportunity to work on a project together, the CannaCurious Guide for Women. that's going to be released on 420. And that's basically walking through very digestible content information for women to review for different aspects of their life where cannabis can help, where it may have not been considered one, or also maybe have been frowned upon, or there's been some type of anxiety around using cannabis in that situation. And on top of that, this 420, you also are releasing, I believe, access to the spring edition of your magazine.
Yes, we are. So we're a digital magazine, but we are offering a print version for 420. It's our spring edition. It's going to be all about bringing women into the 420 celebration. So we're highlighting and focusing on women that are in advocacy and entrepreneurship, and highlighting those, just all different aspects of brands and accessories and different things that you wouldn't have thought of that are cannabis related to help you celebrate 420. And so we'll have that available for purchase. I want to go back to the CannaCurious Guide that I'm so happy that we partnered with on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It helped us totally. It was something that we had it as an idea, and you kind of came in at the right time to help us kind of push us over the hill to over the hump to get it done. So I'm super excited about it, because it's kind of like you start here, like if you don't know anything about cannabis, about CBD, how it could improve your life, how it can be incorporated into your life, this is a great, easy read to basically see, here's how
what I thought was so cool is like I've been in the industry for like 6 or 7 years now, and I thought I like just knew all of the basics, but even just like reviewing the guide a few times, like, oh man, like I didn't even think about that, or like look at it from that perspective. So I think even like folks who like maybe think that they're like a varsity, cannabis user should consider like looking at this guide and then like the other ones in the series. And I'm like so happy that your guide is the first one in the series, and it's just been it's been a cool experience, because just like you, it's like we really wanted to do something special, and we had this opportunity to get PR out there. So why not just expose great people like yourself, and also the House Foundation, who were encouraging folks to donate to.
Yeah, and the House Foundation, like lupus as a disease, is one of the, it's an autoimmune disease that faces a lot of women, disproportionately impacts women, and actually disproportionately impacts women of color. And it's one of those, it has so many different symptoms that, and I have a friend, I have a cousin that has it, and it's kind of like this just annoying disease, because on the surface you could look like you're fine, but you're dealing with chronic pain, joint pain. You can get rashes if you're exposed to the sun. One of my friends, hers is if she has any cold temperatures, like even if she goes to the grocery store, she has to wear gloves because her fingers will turn blue.
Way.
Like, so
that's crazy.
There's a lot of symptoms, and then there's basically a lot of prescription, drugs that you can be on that have all these horrible side effects. So partnering with Kimberly House and the House Foundation, she's used cannabis to kind of alleviate some of her symptoms and get off of some of the prescription drugs,
which is amazing.
Again, so it's just letting people know that there's these options out there. We're not like prescribing or pushing anything, but just providing the information so that people
and there's other people out there who have experienced the information that you're sharing with everyone too. It's not like you're coming from a place of just like doing the research and guessing. Right. I know that you and I both have had these conversations with people who go through crazy struggles every day and use cannabis to help them. I'm so excited for that.
I think it's a great shareable document as well, so that people, one of the things that we talk about, cannabis for chronic pain, mental health, PMS, that's another one that, again, people don't think, but it works wonders for cramping, because that's the inflammation in your body, and CBD works well.
And it's every month, so it's like there's how much ibuprofen can you take, or
right.
whatever it may be.
Right.
And I love the like when people talk like in terms of like CBD and cannabis, like bringing in like a concept like ibuprofen, because I use it in the same way, like because I work out and I fall down skateboarding all the time.
I've seen you.
Yeah.
On the ground, jumping stuff. John, you have a baby now. No.
I know. But I think what's cool about it is like there is this like it's kind of like a cheat in the system, because it's like it causes relief, but also you kind of can get a few giggles maybe out of it too. And what's so great is like I love, especially being in like Colorado, and I'm hoping that everyone else in the country has access like we do here. Just really being able to control the high and the dose, and explore the concepts that you shed light on in the CannaCurious Women's Guide that we're about to release, like microdosing, starting small because you can always take more, type of concept, which is like a beautiful concept, and the fact that we have that ability to control it now is amazing. And I think it's amazing what you're doing, and I couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity to work with you on this guide. Anything else you want our listeners to leave our listeners with? I know we have the 420 spring edition coming up. It's big. We have the guide releasing. Anything else going on in the world you want to share? Or?
I think we covered everything. I think you can follow us at CannaCurious Mag on Instagram, and our website is CannaCuriousMag.com. We have free digital editions that are located there, and go out and support the 420 print edition. It's a beautiful copy, and it's chock full of really good stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I'll plug in links to all your social media, the 420 edition, the guide, your social media, etc. So thank you so much, Takesha. It's been a pleasure as always speaking with you, and I'll be talking to you soon.
All right, take care, John. Thanks.